Chapter 41. Selez. Talenth proceeded along the obsidian floor and stepped next to Selez, briefly glancing at him before turning his attention upward toward the platform. Talenth, Tide Lord Caelinth said. You were present for all the events leading to Selez's sullying, correct? Yes, Tide Lord. Have you heard Selez's account? Yes, Tide Lord. I understand you have a message stone from Lord Absoloth. Do you have context you would like to share before we activate it? Talenth nervously looked at Selez for a moment and then spoke. I believe Selez violated protocol on purpose because he wanted the honor of retrieving the Tide Sword and punishing the exile. The human and exile were both non-aggressive, and I believe Selez intended to kill them before contacting Deep Watch. He would have killed them if the wizard had not stopped us. I fully admit to my own participation in the violence. Selez felt anger rising. He thought, how dare Talenth work against me? He had joined in to ingratiate himself, and now that it went wrong, after the initial event, Tide Lord Absoloth ordered us back to Nagara. I believe at this point Selez still felt he could retrieve the Tide Sword and take revenge on the humans. Instead of heading directly back to Nagara, he led us to the nearby tidal womb where he suspected the humans were. When it was discovered humans had defiled the pools, a horn was sounded and local Naga gathered to attack. Selez clenched his fists and grinded his teeth. He wanted to shout at Talenth, but knew if he opened his mouth now, it would only be worse. Neither of us informed the others regarding the Covenant or the exile before the attack began. Without that context, all of them would have been slain, as would any humans found in our seas. If not for the human imbuing the sword in the second blade's appearance... Talenth paused. I was too cowardly to speak up then, but that is the truth of it, as I see it. He bowed his head. I struck the exile while she was defenseless, before the human intervened. The Tide Lord looked disappointedly at Selez and slowly shook his head. It appears there were some things you left out, Selez. Irontail spoke up. That barely changes things. That boy rallied fellow Naga to defend a tidal womb that had been defiled. The attack on the exile is regrettable, but were I there, those humans would not still breathe. Selez looked at the first of Azrea, his mother, and it sapped the anger from him. She looked at him emotionless, but some faint change of the eyes, maybe he imagined it, shifted into disappointment. Tide Lord Caelinth spoke. Talenth, this council does not pass judgment on you this day. If you would, present the stone. Have you listened to it? I have not. My instructions were to place it directly into the hands of the first of Azrea, Tide Lord. Caelinth nodded. You may approach. Selez watched as Talenth carefully slithered up the ramp and handed the stone to Namira. You may now leave to pay your respects, Talith, said Calinth. Talith nodded and returned down the ramp. As he passed Selez, he kept his gaze straight ahead. There was silence until the door shut once more. First, I request your consent to play the message to all present, said Calinth. I consent, said Namira, and then placed the stone on the center of the table and activated it. The voice that emanated from the device was certainly Tide Lord Absoloth's, but it was warped and emitted with a steady, even tone. This message is for Namira, the first priestess of Ezreia. It contains a mandate from the Deep Watch, as well as testimony of Selez Lumenscale's transgressions. After the testimony of this message, it should be paused and the room cleared if others are present. Only the ears of the council should be permitted to hear the end. Tide Lord Calinth's brow skin furrowed. The recording continued. A covenant has been reached with the Old One that dwells on the Forbidden Island. The Deep Watch declares safe passage for all humans that came from the sky near the edge. At the time of this message's reception, my agents will have placed my mark upon them. Safe passage will only be revoked on an individual basis for defilement and violence committed against Naga. The exile of Forbidden Island has issued a blood oath to pursue her procreator. This will be honored. She will also be granted safe passage while she remains committed to that task. She will likely be in the company of the humans and is known to take their form. One of the humans has been bestowed a tied armament by the Old One. This sword was originally given in return for the Old One's creation of the Lightless Reef. The carrying of it by this human will be honored. General Irontail's eyes went a bit wide, and he looked like he was about to say something, but Calinth shot him a look, and he closed his mouth. It is currently 3 days until the Celestial Dance at the time of this recording. I hope that young Selez is still alive and that this message has arrived with haste. If he is not present, ensure he hears this part of the message. I have instructed Selez to return to Nagara, convey the mandate, and make his transgressions known. They are as follows. Selez invaded the Forbidden Island, committed unwarranted violence, and stole a tied armament. He then sought to commit further violence with the stolen weapon. He led his 2 companions, Talith and Bagrant, to do the same. He was rightfully dishonored by our gods for those actions. I have verified these events. It is obvious to me that Selez believes he has done nothing wrong. He was defiant and evoked Namira by name to support his transgressions. It is my opinion that Nagara has failed in its education of Selez. I will not allow him to sing the song and receive his calling until his education has been remediated. If he has made all haste and traveled through the night to arrive at Nagara within 1 day, he should receive the same judgment as Talith and Bagrant, and may, after a year of further education, sing the song next cycle. If he travels at a normal pace, but still arrives before the Celestial Dance, I recommend 5 years of education under a different sponsor. However, the reason I have recorded this message is because I suspect he will defy my orders and continue to target the humans for revenge. If he arrives after the celestial dance, his actions should be investigated. Should he attack the humans again, he should be marked publicly dishonored and exiled. If he should choose to perform the rite of Obtenepercatus, I will allow him to join Deep Watch, and I will continue his education personally. Selez's body was frozen as he heard the words. His eyes bounced between the faces of the council that were now cold and expressionless. He thought, Mother. But hers seemed the coldest of all. The very fact that she had sponsored him and it had all come to this, that she would wake to dishonor, was assured. She might even lose her place as the first. He thought, I'm going to have to take my own eye or be exiled. Maybe I can still initiate a blood oath, but finally, if the worst has come to pass and Selez's malfeasance extinguishes a life, even a human one, I recommend he be exiled and darkened. May the gods offer him redemption. Oh no, he thought. The council was silent. The Tide Lord and the First General looked to Namira. Selez's tail started to quiver. He wanted to jump up and run. They're going to take my eyes, he thought. Clear the room, but the Tide Lord Kalinth reached forward and paused the recording with a glow from his hand. Namira, expressionless, met his pleading gaze and spoke. I move that Selez lumen scale be darkened for his transgressions. Irontail and Kalinth both relaxed. Seconded, said Irontail, shaking his head. Then it is decided, said Tide Lord Kalinth. Then Selez could not contain himself anymore. Blood oath, Selez sputtered out. I declare a blood oath against the human that carries a... Silence, shouted Kalinth. Even now, do you not understand? To kill more would only further sully your name. Oath nullified. He shook his head and took a breath, staring directly at Selez. Due to your many transgressions, which include defying a Tide Lord, attempting to steal a Tide armament, committing unwarranted violence, lying to others to include them in your sordid affairs, and directly causing the death of a Nagaran citizen, your judgment is to be darkened in front of all eyes. Selez opened his mouth to shout, and suddenly his throat was gagged, causing him to cough a few times. He looked up and saw his mother's hand glowed and glanced at her icy gaze, then looked away. The rite will be performed at sunset. Escort him to the council holding cell. After the two guards flanking Selez escorted him out of the room, Tide Lord Kalinth commanded the room be cleared, leaving only Namira, Kalinth, and Irontail. I'm sorry, Namira. You made the right choice. The boy orchestrated his own song, and we cannot go against Absalah's recommendations, given what transpired, said Kalinth. I'm not. I can understand killing humans. I can understand wanting to retake a Tide Sword. But how can you fall so low that you would defy a Tide Lord's orders? To assume an ungranted command, lie, and then issue orders resulting in death. The boy is out of control. Absoloth was right to recommend it. How did we fail Selez so completely? Irontail gave an accusing look at Namira. I instructed Selez, the same as all my students, but I accept my part in the blame. I also agree with Absoloth. Remediation at this point would be ineffective. She met Irontail's gaze, her face the surface of a frozen river. Irontail broke away. Well, let's see what Absoloth has to say, said Kalinth. He resumed a recording. Clear the room before continuing. There was a long pause. You may be wondering why I have formed a new covenant with the old one. Irontail raised his brow skin and nodded. In return for allowing the humans in exile safe passage, the old one has given us Negan's first journal. Irontail slammed the desk with a palm. Kalinth's mouth hung open, and even Namira's eyes widened. As suspected, it contains Negan's personal notes of his creation of our people, and while it confirms some of our beliefs, some truths defy our doctrines. Once Deep Watch has finished analysis, I will personally deliver it to Nagara. While some of the text still requires deciphering, there appears to be spellscription for some of Negan's workings. Notably, there are diagrams of gills. The council was shocked. Negan's first journal was thought to be lost to time ages ago. It was a myth, and it was clear to them all what Absoloth was hinting at. Something that Naga priestesses and mages had pursued for thousands of years. A taboo. A spell that would restore their lungs. A spell that would allow them to invade the human lands. Regarding the humans, Absoloth's words droned on, interrupting the council's buzzing thoughts. Know that they were transported into our waters by an air-traversing ship, crafted in a manner not known to our world. The Old One believes they are from another world. There was a long pause, as though Absoloth had intentionally left a gap for their reaction. Indeed, if he hadn't just revealed possession of Negan's first journal, this would have been the biggest news in 100 years. The humans are weak, and they may not survive the journey. Should they pose any threat, I have tasked one of my blades with keeping an eye on them. He will escort them to the borders of the shelf and then return. Regarding the war, we have still not reached stasis since the last breach. I request the Dark Tithe be increased to 15%, and a general call for aid be given to any standing Nagaran forces for volunteers. The rate of new recruits is not enough to replenish our losses. I estimate 2 years before next breach at current rate. Tide Lord Kalin's eyes darkened, and Irontail closed his eyes for a moment and nodded. Should any Coriacea fall this cycle, we will likely be overrun by the